What is going on, everybody? Today we are back with yet another comparison, and this one is going to be a battle of the big boys, and those are the Nike Vomero 18s, which I have been loving and just came out recently, and I am going to be comparing them with my beloved, one of my favorite max cushion shoes of all time, the New Balance More V5. So the reason I'm making this comparison is I really like both of these max cushion shoes, but I do think that there are certain use cases or preference types that might differentiate the two shoes for each person. So let's get right into it. So as always, we are going to start out with the outsoles or the traction of both of these shoes. And both of these are neutral road running shoes. So I would say that with the traction, both of them performed around the same. Now, I live in LA in California, so I run in pretty good weather conditions, usually pretty sunny, and I usually run on the road. If anything, I do some light trails. Sometimes the roads that I run in have a little bit of sand from the beach, and I would say that both of these outsoles held up very, very well in those types of conditions. Now, it does rain every now and then, and I have ran in rainy conditions in both of these shoes, and I would say that both of them have around average traction. I wouldn't say that it's above average or below average. I would say that I felt pretty secure when I was running in these. Maybe in the rain, I felt like I had to be a little bit more careful of how fast I was running and how quick I would turn corners. But for the most part, you're gonna be good to go when it comes to traction in both of these shoes. So for traction, I would say that it would be around a tie. As you can see, Nike has their traditional waffle lug pattern on the Vomero 18s, and on the New Balance More V5s, they have these kind of like hexagonal or really big rubber traction pods. So I would say from a traction point of view, you're gonna be good to go in both of these shoes unless you're running in a lot of snowy conditions or on the trails. Then I'm not exactly sure if either of these shoes will do too well in those conditions. Now moving on to durability of these outsoles. Now it is a little bit tough for me to say durability on these outsoles just because I have such different mileage in each shoe. So the New Balance More V5 I've had for a lot longer, almost a year now, and the Vomero 18s I've had for, I would say, around a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I have put on a few miles in the Vomero in that short time period, and I would say I have around 40 to 50 miles in these right now. And then the New Balance More V5, I've honestly lost track of how many miles I've had in these shoes. Now it's a mixture of running as well as walking, because I do like walking in this shoe and just taking it out on normal walks or just to the grocery store. So I would say I have around 150 to 175 miles in this shoe. And I would say that the outsole on the New Balance More V5 has been holding up very, very well. I can see that there is wear on the outsole, and that's to be expected with this many miles on the shoe, but it's nothing crazy. And I think that these have a decent amount of life left in them. If anything, it would be the cushion that really flattens and bottoms out before the outsole really gives out. So I would say that the durability on the New Balance More V5 is very good. Now the Vomero 18 is also no slouch when it comes to durability. I would say that since the Vomero 18's outsole is a little bit on the softer side, I do already see some wear in the waffle lugs. Typically, Nike likes to put those little small nubs on top of their waffle lugs, and a lot of those have already worn down after 40 to 50 miles, but that's to be expected as I am a heavier runner. Now, if I had to give the edge to either one when it comes to durability, I would probably give the slight edge to the New Balance More V5, as I have tested it a little bit more and I've had the shoe for longer. I also think that the coverage, the rubber outsole coverage on the New Balance More V5 is just a little bit more than the Vomero 18s. As you can see, the outsole or the more durable rubber on the New Balance More V5 just covers a little bit more of the outsole than the Vomero 18s. And I think that that contributes a little bit more to the durability of the shoe. But again, this is just a hypothesis, as I am gonna keep putting miles on the Vomero 18. So if anything, just a slight edge on durability goes to the New Balance More V5. But when it comes to the traction and basically the general performance of both of the outsoles, I think you can't go wrong with either of these shoes. Now moving on to the main event of this comparison, and that's gonna be the cushion, which is the highlight of both of these shoes and probably why you're watching this video, because you're probably looking for a max cushion shoe. Now, in my opinion, you really can't go wrong with either of these setups. I'm gonna go over quickly the specs of each shoe, and then we'll talk a little bit about how they felt and what setup would work with what type of person. So starting out with the New Balance More V5, it is a little bit more of a simple setup than the Vomero 18. It's a full-length Fresh Foam X midsole with 44 millimeters of stack height in the heel, dropping to 40 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. And as you can see, it is a chunky monkey. This is a ginormous outsole. You don't really sit on top of all of this midsole, and I would say that it kind of has sidewalls in the midsole. So even though it looks really big, your foot is probably sitting like around here. And honestly, when I saw the spec sheet, I didn't feel like it was a 44 millimeter stack height in the heel. I felt like it was more like a 40 or maybe, 36. It doesn't feel super, super tall. Like you are gonna get a couple inches taller. It just might look more enormous than it actually feels on foot. Now it is a 4 millimeter heel to toe drop of Fresh Foam X. So again, I said 40 millimeters in the forefoot and 44 millimeters in the heel. And overall, the Fresh Foam X is soft, especially right out the box. It is pretty soft and it's still stable because of the wide base. And you're also gonna feel like it is a pretty lively foam. I wouldn't say it's a super bouncy foam, but it does feel like it compresses really well and it feels like you're getting a touch of energy response back and you're still able to actually pick up the pace quite well for such a big shoe. Now overall, the outsole as well as the midsole are pretty chunky, and I think that that is to help a little bit with the stability, which I actually didn't have any problems in with the midsole on the New Balance More V5. Now, I do want to note that this is a neutral max cushion shoe, so if you're looking for a stability shoe or you're overpronator or heavy supinator, I don't know if this is the best option. I do think that it is a better option than a lot of other max cushion shoes just due to that wide base, and it does feel fairly stable. But if you are looking for a stability option, I would look elsewhere, probably not the More V5. So that's the More V5's cushion setup, very comfortable, especially out the box. As you put in the miles and as I've worn them a lot more, the foam does compress a little bit and it doesn't feel as plush and it doesn't feel as lively and fun to run in, I would say, than it was right out the box, but that's not necessarily a bad thing since there is so much stack height in this shoe. Even when it is compressed, you're still gonna get a little bit of that impact absorption that you would get right out of the box. So I think that that's the pro of having such a high stack height. And in my opinion, it's the reason why I love this model over the 1080 V14s a lot, because I felt like the 1080 V14s, I felt the ground way too much, and don't even get me started on when I compressed the foam of the 1080 V14s, it just felt more like bricks, or not to be mean, but it just didn't feel like it had the same impact protection it did right out of the box. Whereas these, even though there is a little bit of flattening in the midsole, I still feel like there was enough foam that it just feels more like a traditional EVA setup, if anything, and I'm still able to run in this shoe, which is always nice. Now comparing it to the Nike Vomero 18 setup, we have 46 millimeters of stack height in the heel, dropping to 36 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot, and you have a dual foam setup. So you have the Nike Zoom X that they brand so proudly on the side of the midsole, and that is the top layer right under your foot foam, and then on the bottom layer, you can kind of see that they mark that the React X is on the bottom of the midsole. And I would say that out of the box, both of these shoes' foams feel actually very similar. I know that this Zoom X is typically Nike's racing foam, but I don't exactly know if it's the same exact compound that they use in the Vaporfly or the Alphafly. And I would say just how it felt on foot, it felt very soft, very kind of plush and fun to run in as well. It gave me similar feelings that I had in the New Balance More V5 when I first started running in the shoe. But obviously since this shoe is a lot newer, it felt very fun to run in. I felt like I could pick up the pace. And one added bonus that comes with the 10 millimeter heel to toe drop, I know a lot of people either love that or hate that about Nike, is that since there isn't as much foam in the forefoot, I was actually able to pick up the pace a little bit more in the Vomero 18s. And this one actually felt more, instead of like a max cushion shoe, kind of like the New Balance More V5, it felt more like a premium daily trainer where it is, yes, have a lot of cushion, but I am able to pick up the pace because it doesn't feel like there's a whole bunch of foam in the forefoot, and I do get a little bit of that ground feel. So if anything, you can look at this as maybe a bigger daily trainer or maybe a daily trainer that has premium foam. If you don't mind a little bit bulkier than normal daily trainer, then I think that the Vomero 18 is going to be a fantastic option. It's going to give you the benefits of a max cushion shoe like the New Balance More V5, but be a little bit more sleek and be a little bit more versatile in running a little bit faster. Now, I do want to note that the New Balance More V5 has a 4 millimeter heel to toe drop, so that just means that you're going to have a lot more foam in the forefoot, which is great for impact protection. But like I said, it might be harder to pick up the pace as there is a little bit less ground feel, and I just feel like it doesn't feel as fast as the Vomero 18. So from a cushion point of view, if you're planning on using your max cushion shoes just strictly for recovery runs, just strictly for slower runs, then the New Balance More V5 is going to take care of you just fine, especially if you like that lower heel to toe drop. Whereas if you're looking for a max cushion shoe that you still want to pick up the pace in, or you're just looking for a max cushion daily trainer, then the Vomero 18 I think is going to really suit your needs, because you are able to run a little bit faster if you need to. And I think that that contributes as well to long runs in the shoe as well. I prefer running long runs in the Vomero 18 versus the New Balance More V5, just because I feel like the New Balance More V5, especially in those later miles, just has a little bit too much on my foot and under my foot. I just think that it feels a little bit sluggish, and as I'm getting tired, the shoe feels a little bit heavier. Whereas the Vomero 18, yes, it is still a heavy and bigger shoe than normal, but it just feels a little bit quicker and more nimble because of that less foam in the forefoot, if that makes sense. So from a cushion point of view, I don't think you can go wrong with either. I think it just really depends what you're looking for in the shoe. So if you're looking for a traditional maximum cushion shoe that you're just gonna walk in, do recovery runs in, and not put too many miles on the shoe, or at least from a running point of view, if you're not planning to do too many long runs, I think that the New Balance More V5 is a perfect addition to your rotation. Whereas if you're looking for, like I said, a bigger daily trainer, you want that max cushion feel, but you still want to be able to pick up the pace and do different types of run in it, the Vomero 18 is definitely going to suit those needs. Now moving on to the uppers and the fit of both of these shoes. Now I think that both of these run true to size. I do have a wider than average foot. I typically wear a US size 12 in all my running shoes, and that's a standard size 12, not a narrow, not a wide, and not an extra wide. That's the size that I got in both of these shoes, and I felt like it worked perfectly. Now I'm gonna start off with the New Balance More V5's upper. Let's just say that the New Balance fit that they have going on in their recent models is perfect, at least for me. It's a little bit more snug than normal New Balances, I would say, especially in the toe box, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I felt like this shoe fit like a sock. The gusseted tongue was kind of like a compression, had like a compression sleeve, so it really hugged my midfoot as well. So the forefoot is a little bit on the snug side. The tongue and midfoot lockdown was superb. And then once I did that runner's loop with these perforated kind of like sticky holes that stick to the back of your heels, it just provides a one-to-one excellent fit. I think that this is the mold of what running shoes should fit like. So I think that the fit was really what sold me on the New Balance More V5, especially when I first started running in it. But as far as the upper goes, so for the fit, I would say it runs true to size. And then as for the upper materials, that's something that I might have some minor gripes or complaints about. I just think that it's not the most breathable material. It definitely is more on the durable side, but it is a very thick mesh that sometimes feels a little bit hot because it's not very well ventilated, and it just feels a little bit heavier and a little bit more chunk on your foot. It doesn't give you that sleek, lightweight, breathable feel that a lot of other traditional running shoe uppers give you. So that's just something to note. But I think that the perfect fit and the great fit in general on the shoe really outshines that. So if you can look past that, if you're not really running in humid conditions or you don't mind a little bit of extra material around your foot, then I think that the New Balance More V5's upper is gonna work perfectly for you. And I hope it fits your foot as well as it fits mine. Now, when we compare this to the Vomero 18's upper, you kind of have a traditional Nike mesh upper. I would say that the mesh on this shoe is a little bit softer than it is on the More V5, as well as you get a little bit more wiggle room. I would say both these shoes, again, run true to size, but I think you get a little bit more wiggle room in the toe box of the Vomero 18s. And I also think that the fit is very, very good, but I wouldn't say that it's as good as the New Balance More V5s. And I mean, I say that with the asterisk because, you know, everyone's foot is shaped differently, but yeah, this shoe just fit my foot perfectly. So I would say true to size in the Vomero 18s. The breathability also is not the best, but it does feel a little bit lighter than the New Balance More V5's upper. So if you're looking for that, then you should go probably with the Vomero 18. So the upper material is nothing special. It's just kind of like a dual layered mesh, not super breathable, and there is a little bit more wiggle room. So if you don't like that snug fit, you're gonna have to go with the Vomero 18s. So in conclusion, I think that both of these are some of my favorite max cushion shoes. They're non-plated, they're reasonably priced, especially in this day and age. The New Balance More V5 retails for $155, but since it's been out for a while, it's gonna be on sale, or you're gonna be able to find it on sale. And I think that it is a major cop, especially if you're just looking for an easy day or a recovery day shoe, and you maybe wanna walk the dogs with this shoe and you just wanna beat it up and wear it all the time, I think that this is a perfect shoe for you. Whereas the Vomero 18s retail at $150, so $5 cheaper than the New Balance More V5. And I would say that this shoe is, even though the fit isn't as perfect as the New Balance More V5, I would say that this shoe is more versatile. You're gonna be able to do your recovery runs, easy runs, and I would say that if you don't mind a little bit bigger of a shoe, you can take these on long runs and it's gonna take care of you just fine. I think that this shoe provides a lot of bang for the buck, even at that full price of $150. Since this shoe just came out, I don't think you're gonna be able to get it on sale for a while, but if you're watching this comparison a little bit later, maybe a couple months after this release, you might be able to find it for, 120, 130 bucks, maybe even under $100 after it's out for a little bit longer. And I think that that is a fantastic deal. I think this shoe is gonna be able to replace 2 shoes maybe in your rotation, whereas this shoe is mostly gonna replace just one, which is usually a maximum cushion daily trainer. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up my comparison of these 2 shoes. If I had to pick a winner, I would still have to go with the New Balance More V5s just because of that fit. I think that fit is excellent. Also, since I do have the privilege of having a lot of different running shoes, I can have the luxury of just having a maximum cushion daily trainer or just a recovery shoe that's dedicated for slower runs. But if I was looking to build a minimal shoe rotation, or I don't want a lot of pairs of shoes, or if I don't want a ton of running shoes, I think that the Vomero 18, especially priced at $150, I think that this is a fantastic bargain. I also think that once it goes on sale, as Nike shoes typically do, it's gonna be an even better deal. So it all comes down to preference. I don't think you can go wrong with either of these 2 shoes. There is a reason why both of these are some of my favorite max cushion shoes on the market. So let me know in the comment section down below if you have either of these or if you're considering one of them. Maybe if you have both, let us know in the comment section down below what your experiences are like with both of these shoes. But other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for the support and thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. And yeah, that's gonna pretty much wrap it up. Peace.